Hi everyone, welcome to the Tone Bass Beginning Guitar course. My name is Daniel D'Arcle, and I'm going to be your instructor for the next several lessons. I'd like to start by saying congratulations, which may seem a little strange because we've just gotten started together, but you've already made the biggest step in becoming a musician, and that is starting this course. Through our time together, we will be working on the basics of guitar, from the equipment that we use, to the use of the hands, to critical listening skills, all the way through to the performance of concert-level repertoire. When this course concludes, you will be equipped as critical listeners and quality performers of classical guitar repertoire. Accompanying this course is a PDF provided by Tone Bass, which I encourage you to download now if you have not already done so. This PDF includes exercises that we will go through together in our practice room, excerpted from actual classical guitar repertoire, rather than just some exercises that don't sound like music. From day one, you and I are going to be making music together, and I can't wait to get started. I'd like to make a note about how the pace of this course is variable from person to person. Some folks may find the beginning material to be a little too easy and may be encouraged to skip, and I encourage you to do that. And some folks may find some material a little bit more difficult to tackle, and they may want to pause things or repeat things, and I encourage you to do that as well. Ultimately, the guitar rewards comfort and relaxation, and the pace at which this course goes that is comfortable for you is going to be just right. Of course, if you have any questions about the material that we're going to be discussing in this course, please feel free to email the Tone Bass team at team@tonebass.co. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into making some music together. Welcome back to the Tone Bass Beginning Guitar course. In this lesson, we will be discussing one of the most often overlooked but vitally important aspects of playing guitar, and that is our sitting position, how we set up our bodies and the instrument in order to best succeed. Let's start with the basics of the sitting position. When playing guitar, it is important to make sure that we are balanced. First and foremost, the guitar rewards comfort and relaxation, and we must make sure that we achieve these things in a balanced way. First and foremost, we need to understand where on the chair we must sit. When playing classical guitar, it is important not to sit as far back in the chair as possible. Rather, as if you're watching a really exciting movie, we want to sit as far forward in the chair as we can, making sure that we're not utilizing the back of the chair and that we're not tempted to lean back or slouch. Next, let's address how we set up our feet. We want our feet to be about shoulders width apart. That allows for the guitar to rest comfortably in between our legs and lean neatly against our torso when we introduce the footstool and the instrument. Next, it's important to address how we sit on our sitting bones or our hips. Often, I see beginning guitar players tend to slouch when they play, sitting on their lower back like this, rather than sitting on their sitting bones. What I recommend doing is a little physical exercise where I imagine I have a device attached to my hips that I have to physically roll forward to ensure that I'm not sitting on my lower back and I'm instead sitting on my sitting bones. The human skeleton is a wonderful thing, and the bones in our hips are designed to take the weight of our torso. Our lower back is not. Remember, the guitar rewards comfort and relaxation, and we are physically more relaxed when we are sitting on our sitting bones rather than our lower back. Next, let's address our shoulders. It's important that our shoulders are neutral and relaxed. Many times when I see beginning guitarists play, their shoulders tend to creep up towards their earlobes. This is a sign of tension that we need to make sure that we avoid. So I make it a point to let my shoulders drop to the ground as relaxed as possible. We will discuss how to use the hands on the instrument soon. For now, we want to make sure that our shoulders are comfortable, neutral, and relaxed, neither leaning forward or back or hunched upward, just letting them hang toward the ground, letting the forces of gravity act upon them. Next, we must discuss the head. Oftentimes, I see guitar players crane their head forward as they play, like this, in order to see what their left hand is doing when they introduce the instrument to their body. The problem is, this is a physiologically defensive position. Imagine, if you will, a cat or a dog that has been frightened. When a dog or a cat has been startled, their head cranes down much like this. In order to avoid the tension and anxiety that comes with this physical motion, we must imagine that our head is simply balancing on top of our spine. I imagine that I have a spring mounted at the base of my neck upon which my head is balanced. And from here, I'm not craning my head, I'm just simply letting it balance on top of the neck. And this may feel strange at first, a little loose, but ultimately neurological messages will be sent more clearly and without strain to the fingers and the rest of the body with your head in this balanced position. Once we have this balanced sitting position, with our feet shoulders width apart, our hips rolled forward, our shoulders relaxed, and our head balanced on top of our neck, we can introduce the next element of this exercise, the footstool. For right-handed classical guitarists, the footstool should be set up underneath the left foot. Now, it is important to determine at what height we should set the footstool. As you can see here, the footstool has several notches on the underside, allowing you to set the footstool to various heights. The height that is appropriate for you is entirely contingent on your torso. Let's go ahead and set the footstool up together. Just to get a baseline, I'm going to set the footstool to the middle notch and put it underneath my left foot. Like so. Making sure that my lower leg is perpendicular to the ground. Once we have the footstool set up, we can determine whether the height is appropriate by introducing the guitar. What determines the appropriate height of the guitar is the location of this tuning peg, the tuning peg of our 6th string low E. Ideally, we want this tuning peg to be at eye level, and as you can see now, the 6th tuning peg is a bit low on me. Therefore, I must go to my footstool and adjust it one notch higher. There we are, a little bit closer to eye level here. Once we have determined the appropriate height of the instrument, we must figure out where the instrument touches our body. And there are 3 points of contact that we need to be aware of. The first point of contact between the guitar and our body is on the inside of the left thigh, here. The hip of the guitar, that which separates the upper and lower bouts of the instrument, should rest neatly against the inside of our left leg. Next, the bottom of the guitar, at the bottom of the lower bout, should be making contact with the inside of the right leg. And finally, the upper bout of the guitar should lean ever so slightly against our sternum, allowing the guitar to be pointed very slightly upward rather than directly out. There are a few common mistakes that are associated with the sitting position of the guitar once the instrument is introduced that I would like to address. First and foremost, you can see that in my sitting position, everything is pointed forward, toward you. My shoulders, my torso, the instrument itself are all pointed toward you. Oftentimes, I will see guitarists introduce their hands to the instrument, and in order to see what their left hand is doing, pull the instrument back. This creates some physical disadvantages and makes it more difficult to play the instrument. Remember, we want our sound hole here pointed directly out toward our audience. Another common mistake that I see in order to accommodate seeing the strings is an actual rotation of the back and shoulders to see what the guitar is doing. This creates a great deal of unnecessary strain on our back. Therefore, we want to square up our torso, make sure that our shoulders and hips are even, and ensure that the guitar is pointing out toward our audience. If you do feel the need to look at your left hand, that's quite all right. Looking at the left hand is absolutely acceptable for classical guitar. However, when doing so, rather than twisting the back, the shoulders, or the guitar itself, we want to slightly turn the head from the neck and look down at what our left hand is doing, like so. This way, I maintain the balance of my back, shoulders, and neck, and don't alter my physical technique in any way that allows the guitar to move about my body. This is an example of our basic neutral sitting position. It's important, however, not to be rigid and locked into this sitting position. There are instances throughout the classical guitar repertoire where this technique needs to be altered. For instance, when playing higher notes with the left hand, it's necessary to dip the shoulder and swing the hand around in order to play notes in the upper positions on the left hand. It is important to remember that when we return to lower positions, we return to our neutral sitting position. This is one example of the flexibility that you will need in finding your sitting position. Remember, however, if your sitting position needs to be altered in order to perform a specific technique or passage, that you return to your neutral sitting position. If you find that a footstool needs to be elevated too high for your comfort, or there are other physical aspects of your playing that become uncomfortable when trying to achieve this sitting position, know that there are devices out there to make it more comfortable for you. A list of these types of devices will be made available to you in the PDF that accompanies this course. You may notice that in the rest of our time together in this course, that I will be using this device to elevate the guitar. This device will allow me to have the footstool at a lower level, creating more comfort on my back while elevating the instrument to an appropriate height. Some may feel that this type of equipment is unnecessary, others may be interested to try it out. I encourage you to explore the options that make sitting with the guitar comfortable for you. Before moving on to figuring out how the right and left hand on the guitar should operate, it is important to make sure that we have a consistent sitting position. Take your time and find the sitting position that works best for you. For our listening and appreciation this week, I encourage you to listen to the music of Fernando Sor, one of the most iconic composers in our instrument's history. A 19th century Spanish classical guitarist and composer, he made a living not only in Spain, but throughout Europe. I encourage you to look at his Etudes, Opus 6, in particular his C major study number 8, his variations on a theme of Mozart, Opus 9, and his Fantasie Elegiaque, Opus 59. Lessons regarding all of these pieces can be found in the Tonebase archive. I encourage you to go in and take a look.